Welcome to The Bottom Line Up Front, the podcast that cuts through the noise to deliver distilled insights from today's most important technical webinars, presentations, and demonstrations. Designed for federal and military IT leaders, each episode breaks down complex technologies into mission-ready takeaways so you get the key points fast. Whether it's cybersecurity, cloud architecture, or emerging defense technologies, we highlight what matters most and how trusted integrators like ATP Gov can help implement and operationalize these solutions across your agency or command. No fluff, no filler, just the bottom line up front. In today's episode, we distill a webinar presented by Cam Cullen, CMO for BlastWave, on building a defensible architecture with a focus on remote access for third-party OT vendors, the South attack vector, and the emerging reality of AI agents.
The air gap is permanently broken. Remote maintenance is very common in OT now, and it's almost a mandatory requirement in many scenarios, especially as some of the OT systems become, call it more maintenance heavy and software updated by the manufacturers.
As Cam mentions, we first have to understand air gapping is effectively broken. Remote maintenance in the operational technology space isn't optional anymore. It's becoming a standard across sectors. With that, some old habits lingered, like shared credentials and sticky note passwords, which leave you wide open to social engineering and misuse.
The other thing to keep in mind as we talk about remote access is that global CVEs just continue to explode. And probably most troubling in this factor, it's not just the OT systems that are reporting CVEs, it's actually the firewall and VPN companies that are supposed to be protecting your OT network, especially remote access.
The CVE curve at the same time keeps climbing, and critically, it's not just OT devices, it's also firewalls and VPNs. They are seeing web-exposed vulnerabilities that enable admin bypass or root access. Exploit speeds have shrunk from weeks to hours, and AI accelerates reconnaissance and phishing at scale. So if your plan depends on catching every alert, expect fatigue and massive miss rates.
More concerning is it's actually being exploited much faster. It used to take 30 days back in 2020 for these things to be exploited regularly. Now we're seeing in just hours.
Cam talks about two incidents that prove the point. He reviews the Oldsmar water facility incident, which was remote access software misuse without multi-factor authentication, and he talks about the Target breach, where a vendor's HVAC credentials opened the door for lateral movement and massive data theft. These are completely different industries, but they have the same weak link: poorly secured third-party access. So let's talk about what does work. And here are some practical controls according to Cam. You need to replace passwords with cryptographic keys tied to a mobile device or FIDO token. Even if a laptop is compromised, possession and biometrics stand in the way. Phishing emails asking to reset your password become irrelevant because there is no password. If we look at protocol allow listing, we can permit only the exact industrial protocols and endpoints their roles required. Don't put full tunneling in the hands of the vendors. So if someone logs in from a suspicious location, block it.
We talked about North for reconnaissance and what we do with network cloaking. We talked about employee remote access, basically attacks out from the west side of the house. We talked about segmentation and lateral movement and threat vectors from the inside, where people are trying to move east-west that they're not supposed to. And today, what we're essentially talking about is on the south, which is you have maintenance users who are actually getting into the devices from remote, and what can they do from that perspective? If you can control all four of these directions of attack, it gives you the ability to make sure that you have a 360-degree protection of your network.
Cam also talks about micro-segmentation at the device level. In the world of OT, this means least privilege for contractors reaching only the safety controllers and process maintenance on the systems that they are supposed to be touching. There's no east-west roaming inside of your OT network.
Maintenance contractors was hacked, and a hacker gained access to the network and it basically messed up 26 of their site. With someone like this, it's actually very dangerous because their refrigeration systems can basically turn into bombs if they are manipulated. If you're familiar with what happened into Lebanon, the ammonium nitrate explosion they had in their ports. Bunch of different security solutions caused them to realize they had really a huge attack surface and very little ability to stop attacks because they didn't even know necessarily which system was at each site.
Cam also emphasizes the importance of hardening remote desktop and jump server options. When you don't trust endpoints, route your access through a controlled jump server with file transfer limits and session recording where required. And finally, on-site controls still matter. If a vendor is physically present, USB use and local console actions must obey the same least privilege rules. This means that remote access risk also includes on-prem maintenance behaviors. Cam expands the conversation to also address artificial intelligence and cloud edges. He talks about how agencies are exploring cloud SCADA or Gen AI analytics and urges that we need to put guardrails at the edge, putting in controlled agents in front of your cloud and AI clusters, enforcing one-way ingestion, and allowing only specific commands or protocols if and when you decide to permit control. Think data diode patterns before bidirectional integration. Now, if we put this under the lens of federal and military alignment, this approach aligns with zero trust principles. Identity, we're talking about passwordless multi-factor authentication. Device, possession and biometrics. Networking, micro-segmentation and cloaking. And data, one-way ingestion. This model supports RMF and NIST CSF control families focused on access control, boundary protection, and supply chain risk management. Using BlastWave as part of your zero trust stack supports RMF and NIST CSF control families focused on access control, boundary protection, and supply chain risk management for critical infrastructure and ICS. Now, for CONUS and OCONUS operations, location-aware access and protocol allow listing are practical steps to reduce the attack surface during vendor support windows. Cam also provided us with a federal military alignment guide, or cheat sheet, focused on passwordless MFA, mobile and FIDO, and roles-based policies. On the device side, bind your authentication to a possession factor and validate the origin and location. On the network side, focus on micro-segmentation per device, block east-west movement, and cloak non-essential services. Create protocol allow lists, along with one-way ingest for AI cloud until controls mature. And finally, in the visibility and automation category, apply session recording wherever you can, as well as SIM and SOAR integration for audit and remediation. Cam reminds us to always review our RMF artifacts. Compliance hooks in at every level in the OT space, whether it's in your SSP, your controls inheritance, your supply chain, vendor offboarding SOPs, privileged access, and tick-aligned remote access policies. At ATP Gov, we put together an implementation playbook for a zero trust OT strategy. And here's what it looks like. In phase 1, we would do an assessment. We'd inventory touch points and current VPN firewall exposure. We'd list the protocols actually needed, define passwordless MFA enrollment with device binding and biometrics, and then take a look at the interactive clients and specific OT devices that exist in the environment, and then assess if we need to harden those servers with session recording. After that, you have to set up a pilot. You deploy to one site, enforce vendor device level micro-segmentation with a solution like BlastWave, adopting protocol allow lists, and then test location awareness policies. At the same time, we need to gate any cloud and Gen AI analytics behind a one-way ingest agent, all the while measuring failed authentication attempts, block lateral movement, and look at mean time to provision and offboard the vendors. And finally, it's all about scale and sustainment. We need to roll out to additional plants and bases, standardize your vendors onboarding via invitation link workflows, eliminate passwords, integrate all the logs with Enterprise SIM, and update any outstanding RMF packages. So what is the bottom line up front? If vendors can reach your operational technology stack, so can adversaries. Because in the end, you don't want to wait for an incident to tell you that your vendor access is too open. Kill the passwords, lock down the protocols, and force least privilege per device. Then add cloud and AI guardrails. That's how you keep maintenance mission ready without opening the gates. So let's get your South Vector locked down today. Be sure to reach out to ATP Gov today at www.atpgov.com or email info@atpgov.com or check us out on social media on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe to The Bottom Line up front wherever you get your podcasts, and stay tuned for more distilled insights from the front lines of tech and national security. So until next time, stay secure, stay mission ready.